So the misconception is that it's chronic as opposed to persistent. The misconception is that you're going to have to learn to live with it as opposed to learn to live. Learn to live. You may not be able to live the way you were living, but you can still live and you can still be just as enriched. Stephen Hawking, I don't know how you do that. This man has a condition where he's in a wheelchair and he can't even talk in his 20s and
Mm,
becomes the world's greatest physicist. You and I love stories of inspiration. So I
sure.
like shows like America's Got Talent, these other shows, Ninja Warrior. These
Yep.
are people that overcome stuff where most people go, you can't overcome that, right? Well, you can. And it's not unique individuals, it's you. So the misconception that you're limited, that there's something that's going to happen you cannot master it. All right. The
Right.
book says mastering pain. It doesn't say managing it. It says
Right.
mastering it. It means you get to be back in charge.
Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stevenson, the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, where we explore what it takes to help you live your best audacious life ever. I'm totally thrilled to have you with us here today. I want to express my heartfelt appreciation for taking time out of your busy day to join us. Together, we're going to dive into the transformative ideas that empower you to break free from limitations and embrace life with courage and enthusiasm. Now, imagine for a moment your life as a vast landscape. Just like any landscape, it has mountains and valleys, moments of triumph and stretches of struggle and pain. But here's the truth. That pain you experience isn't a life sentence. It's a companion we can learn to manage. Just as nature adapts to changing seasons, we too have what today's guest calls existential immune system, an inner capacity that helps us to adapt, heal, and thrive no matter the challenge. Our emotions, whether it's anxiety, anger, or sadness, aren't our enemies, they're our messengers, signals guiding us towards understanding our needs. By cultivating self-awareness and redefining our stories, we can transform our experiences and chart new paths forward. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome our guest who embodies these principles, Dr. Alan Weisser, a clinical psychologist with over 25 years of experience specializing in chronic pain management. Dr. Alan, he's on a mission to empower individuals to master their pain and live more fully. And he does this through a holistic approach combining psychological insight with practical techniques to help people navigate life's toughest moments. So let's dive into this powerful conversation with Dr. Weiser and cover the wisdom he has to share. Hey, Alan, thank you for joining me here today on the Audacious Living Podcast. I appreciate you for making the time to do this.
My pleasure.
That's great. I oftentimes say that, it really is, I consider it a blessing to be able to engage in conversation that can potentially help other people sort of elevate themselves or get to a better place. And so it's I'm always excited to sit down and chat, and really happy that you're here. You spend a lot of time, or you're working and helping people mastering chronic pain and the suffering that they go through, that which is really, really relevant, especially this podcast when we talk about living that best audacious life. And there are going to be things that hold us back and impede our progress, and so being able to learn how to master those things is key and critical to helping us to live this life that we talk about. So maybe as a starting point, I can get you to introduce yourself to our audience, top of the work that you do, and what's got you to the point that you're at now.
Okay. Give you the Reader's Digest version.
Okay.
So I'm a clinical psychologist. For the last 25 years, I've specialized in helping people with chronic pain. Before that, starting in 1988, I worked with people with chronic mental illness,
Okay.
10 of those years in a state mental hospital in New York. So you could say that for almost 40 years, I've been working with chronic conditions,
Okay. Well,
some of the most challenging that you're likely to ever encounter.
hmm.
And I was an attorney before I became a psychologist. That's a whole other story, but that's part of my own story. And my journey in terms of understanding chronic pain started at age 12 and a half when I broke my neck.
Mhm.
Just a quick story. I was one of those headstrong kids,
Mhm.
and I wanted to do backflips in a diving board. And yeah, I should have taken lessons, right? But I figured I could figure it out, right? Did you know when you do a backflip on a diving board, you shouldn't go straight up, you should dive out?
Didn't know that.
Yeah,
Okay.
didn't end well. I came down on the board. I broke my neck in two places.
Mm,
And this is relevant to my work, all of my work. Picture this. I'm a 12-and-a-half-year-old kid. They're taking me to the hospital. I'm in my hospital bed. There's a cast. I know I broke my neck, right?
right.
The doctor walks in and he says to me literally, if you don't die and you're not paralyzed, you will be crippled for the rest of your life.
Wow.
Okay. I actually called people to say goodbye. Now, I didn't die. I wasn't paralyzed, but I also spent over a year laying on a bed on my back with a brace on, not allowed to get out of bed. By the time I was able to get up, it took me almost a year to recover to be able to walk. I
Wow.
wasn't paralyzed, but I was completely atrophied. But the point is, throughout this entire journey, my emotional and psychological reaction to it was the worst it could have been.
Right.
Nobody knew how frightened I was. Nobody knew how damaged I felt. Imagine being told at that age you're going to
Yeah.
be crippled,
Yeah.
that you're fragile, you can't do anything that could
Mm,
make it less. I was afraid to do this, right? So I almost flunked out of high school as a result of this. Didn't do anything with sports. And it really did a number, even more so because I never dealt with it.
right.
I just pushed on through, made jokes. And by the time I got to college, being who I am, I kind of go, you know what? If I'm going out on my terms.
Right.
It seemed like a strange thought, but I've been a martial artist for over 50 years, and it's relevant to this. So what do I do to test the doctor's theory, which I had not tested, right?
Hmm.
I signed up for judo and trampoline.
A couple more safer sports.
Hey, to this day, I remember that first throw, if you've seen judo, flying through the air and going, when I hit that ground, I'm either okay or I'm really not.
Mm,
Bottom line is I'm fine. My neck was fine. I never had a problem with my neck. And I found out almost 40 years later why. Turns out I had some kind of natural fusion.
okay.
Who knows? The point is, you take that vignette and you go like, how does that apply to what I do? Right? Because I get it. I have been down that journey.
Sure.
And there were other things in my life that replicated it. But coming back around to what we're talking about, all of this has eventually led to my approach to helping people. And it's no longer just about chronic physical pain.
Hmm.
We've developed a system for working with people that is captured in the book that we're working on now. We have one book out on chronic pain, but the new book is called Mastering the Overwhelming. And what it means is the system that we developed to help people with chronic pain works with any of life's challenges. It doesn't matter whether it's a mental health issue, it's a life issue, it's COVID, it's
Right.
current politics. I know that sounds really arrogant and
No,
hubris.
that makes sense.
Well, it could, right?
Okay.
But this method has been tested across over 4,000 patients over the last 20 years. And it worked for the same reason I overcame my broken neck. When I encountered people with chronic mental illness and chronic pain, I go like, what do I think I can do? These conditions are so devastating. But what I learned working in the hospital, first lesson, it's not about a mental illness. It's about your whole life being damaged,
Mm, right.
right? You're not just having a mental illness or physical chronic pain. Your whole life is trashed.
Right.
And so as I got through starting to work with people, I'm going like, okay, so I see your injury, but what happened to you? Let's see, did you lose your job? Did your relationships get trashed? Did you lose physical conditioning? Is your sleep disrupted? This came to be known as collateral damage. There's the
Oh,
event, right?
yep.
Like you have an injury, but then there's everything that happens because of the event.
Got you.
But as you know, the medical profession does not look at this holistically.
Right.
They
Right.
may look at depression and anxiety, but they don't look at, for example,
Hmm.
how important is it for you to know every day is fairly predictable?
Hmm.
We
Hmm.
take it for granted, right?
Yes, we do.
That continuity in life that we have where everything's kind of sort of. Well, what happens when you lose that?
Hmm.
That's an existential loss.
Ah, existential loss.
Yeah, meaning because like chronic pain patients, they don't know within the same day, yet day to day, what they may or may not be able to do.
Hmm.
They lose their sense of identity. Their
Right.
self-esteem goes into the garbage pail. So there's all of these collateral damages that aren't being treated. My intake packet is 65 pages long
Wow.
because we assess all of that up front. We go like,
Yep.
yeah, you have these injuries. We're going to work on that for you. But even in that regard, you and I both know this, the medical system's in serious trouble. And there's a lot of things that go wrong, even more so when it's chronic. And so there's 2 whole chapters in the first book about here's what could go wrong and here's what to
Right.
do. So we've come up
Wow.
with not just therapeutic approaches to this, but actual practical approaches.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the bottom line, and this relates to what you do. Imagine that you discover something that most people don't know.
Okay.
Let's pretend you and I were gods 2 million years ago, 10 million, 20, 50 million years ago.
Okay.
We're bored. We're kind of bored. And we go like,
Okay.
we create a race of creatures called humans, right? And because we know the universe is hostile, we're going to design them to be able to adapt, to survive, and to thrive, because otherwise they won't be very entertaining, right?
Right.
We got millions of years to develop this system for being able to survive. And how good would that be? With
Amazing.
that much time, right?
Sure. Sure.
It turns out, and we use certain words to refer to this, that evolution's provided you with the existential immune system. You don't just have physical immunity, you have psychological, emotional, and existential immunity. You've got a complete system that encompasses the totality of being human.
Yep.
And it comes with tools. So imagine you got this incredible toolkit for the absolute survivability, and you don't know you have it. And even if you did, you don't know how to use the tools in it.
Right. Right.
And then because humans are adaptable, you can make do. You can even be incredibly successful. But how many people have you known who, despite their success and getting what they want, really don't end up feeling all that good and don't get to be optimized? So, like I said, this will sound arrogant, but this system takes you to that optimization.
Right, right, right. Well, I certainly love the holistic approach. Even when you the approach to chronic pain, it's all encompassing, and yeah, you're right. The current system just looks at this one area, right? And here's this one area. Okay, great, it's dealt with, and as you talked about, the collateral damage is ignored, and so I definitely hear that. Also loved in your story again, which is again perfect for this podcast. I mean, signing up for trampoline and judo, right, or martial arts at the same time,
Yeah.
but there's a part about that, and this is why I highlight it. There's a part about that where we really, really, truly believe that taking that step into the unknown, right? That's really what that's about, right? So, if there's a Martin Luther King Jr. quote that talks about stepping in the dark staircase, not knowing where it's going, but you stepping anyways, and then the significance of that. And so, I definitely hear that in your illustration there, because I do think it's important. Question I had is, from the experience at 12 and a half years old, how did that experience shape your understanding of like pain and resilience?
Mhm. Well, as I said, case in point, this is what really summarizes what you're asking. I didn't know for over 25 years. Why did I? Because you asked me in high school, I was going to flunk out of high school,
Hmm.
right? I've got 2 PhDs. Obviously, I have some intelligence, but I'm flunking, right? And in grade school, no, I was great. But if you'd asked me, I would have said I'm stupid.
Right.
That's why I'm failing, right? And this is part of what I think survival is all about. I was rescued, and I was rescued by my chemistry teacher in my junior year because I'm in his class and I'm failing. And he asked me to stay after class one day. He was like, "Why are you failing my class?" I go, "What are you talking about?" He said, "You're an intelligent guy. You should be failing." I go, "No, no, I'm not." I wish I had the conversation recorded because he'd go, like, "You're smart." And I go, like, "No, I'm not. You're smart." I know. Anyway, he said, "Look, I'm going to tutor you." He worked with me for months. I got a C in chemistry. That started the ball rolling towards, that's how it got to be. By the time I get to college, I go like, I didn't know then. And somebody challenged me to take that next step up that staircase.
Mhm.
Here's the part I didn't know for years later. In that first moment when the doctor came into that hospital room and said what he said, what I never remembered until many years later is what I thought. And what I thought was, stupid, 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 look what you did,
Mhm.
right? People who get hurt, people who have medical problems, people who suffer something chronic, they don't know how they feel. They don't know what
Right.
they think. They're inclined to blame themselves. Uh, Eventually, addressing the challenges that you're talking about, you have to become self-aware. You have
Mm.
to move towards self-actualization. That's not something spiritual. That's something human.
Yeah.
And humans have the capacity. And that's why the book says new possibilities, because there's no situation. Humans are not designed to be helpless,
Right.
but humans also don't like things they don't want to know. So I help people reverse that orientation to go, yes, I get your suffering.
Yep.
I embrace you for that. I know what that feels like. I've been through it more than once.
Hmm.
But that's not all there is,
There's more.
right? You're alive. This is the whole thing that the Buddha kind of figured out when he tried to reconcile suffering with good stuff. And it's the middle way, right? Yeah, there's a lot of potential suffering in life, but look at all the other things in life. It's an
Yes.
opportunity, right? So
Got you.
I don't know if I really answered the question, but
No,
that's
no,
kind
no.
of
I certainly understand. You get what you know. What you did certainly gave some good perspective, which was helpful. Other thing I'm curious about your recovery period was say 2.5 years or 2 years roughly. You said
close to three.
3. Okay, okay. So 3 year recovery period. That's a lot of time to learn a lot of lessons. Anything that came out to you during that recovery time?
Well, I got funny.
Mhm.
I got very funny because that's how I defended myself. I made a joke about everything, including to me. Uh, I I might have been a patient person before that, but I certainly developed patience and learned to live in the moment because I knew it was going to take a long time.
Right.
And the hardest part was I wasn't allowed to get out of bed. I had to sit up or lay down, but that was all I could do. I couldn't turn over in bed.
Mm.
Uh, I'm going into junior high school. The teachers had to come and do tutoring at home. My whole life was upended by it. And I learned that despite everything, I wasn't going to buy into being depressed. And I didn't get depressed.
Right.
I was unhappy. I was sad. I was really angry. I kind of stayed in that zone. But I also learned that I'm a person that doesn't want to take literally anything lying down. That was the main lesson that I realized this is who you are, whatever the reasons may be. Some people react to these things very differently, but me, and I've been through 7 major events in my life where I've almost died.
Okay.
No exaggeration. And every time that happens, the one thing I know I can count on with me, more than likely, is I'm going to push back.
Mm.
And it's one of the reasons why I love the martial arts, because the martial arts goes, yeah, great, you're a yellow belt, you're a green belt, you're a brown belt, you're a black belt. You're not
Mm.
at the end. You want to push on through, you want to take on some pain for growth. It's there. And I think if people really understand that that's what we are, this is not me, this is what all humans are.
Yep.
I just happen to have more access to it.
Mm. Mm.
So that was the lesson that I will not take things laying down. And I'm not going to buy into being helpless.
Right. That's so empowering, so empowering. Like, and when I'm a big on sort of positive self talk, right? And when you tell yourself, "I'm not helpless, I'm powerful," and that's on loop all the time. That does something to us. It really has to. It does something to us, right?
Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
it.
And for me, you can tell this is not philosophical. This is me. When I talk to my patients about it, I've been through it, I've lived it, and I buy it, I believe it. And yeah, don't get me wrong. I understand that suffering can do you in.
Right.
And I have no illusions that something might happen where I go like, okay, but not without a fight. I even said to people that on my tombstone, it should say, this is one I won't take lying down.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
uh,
so I think that was the core lesson. And you know, a lot of people are willing to do that, but they do it more based on stoicism and
okay.
that sort of notion in this country about you should push on through, push on. This is not
Right.
what I was doing was going, I love being alive, despite all the other stuff. I want to be alive, and I'm
Mm.
going to do what I can to have a life. And if my
Yes.
life is limited, I'll find a way to make that into what I need it to be.
I love it. I love it. Again, it's very in line with what we encourage here in this podcast, which is so awesome. I'd love to. If are there any sort of like maybe common misconceptions or misunderstandings when it comes to pain and suffering or chronic
Just a
pain, I
few,
should say?
just a few.
Okay.
For starters, in the book, the original book, New Possibilities, unraveling the mystery is what we're talking about. Where I help people go like, you don't know how much happened to you, right? And if you
Right.
know, it's empowering. Not only that, but you know how people who have chronic pain are discriminated against.
Mm.
They don't get it. Friends don't get it. Doctors don't get it. Right? That makes things much worse. But the book goes, all right, here's how you were affected physically. Here's how you, for example, deactivation and deconditioning. Sleep disruption. You have your
Right.
sleep disrupted, that can increase pain by 50% and undermine your immune system.
Hmm.
Now, who told you that? No doctor I know has ever told the patient that.
No.
Right. So go back to your question again.
Um, sorry, I got lost in my own question.
It's okay. I'm
I had
kind of lost in the question too.
sorry, I had asked you, drawing a blank.
Okay. Well, it's about pain, lessons learned. Oh, things
Oh, that's
people
right. That's right. You're
don't
two
understand.
recovery. No, I asked you about the recovery period.
Uh,
I've drawn a blank. What's
no,
this?
that's okay. I think you were asking me about what the insights about chronic pain.
Yeah, misconceptions. There's misconceptions.
Misconceptions. Yeah.
That's what. Okay, now I've brought it back.
Thank you. That's on me. Thank you.
I said you look like
I
I
can
got,
get caught up in what I'm talking
and
about.
I followed you. That's the thing.
The first misconception is that there's no such thing as chronic pain.
Hmm.
What there is persistent pain.
What's the difference?
Chronic is a life sentence. No such thing for a lot of reasons. All right. To begin with, any doctor that says you're going to have to learn to live with this for the rest of your life does not know what they're talking about.
Right. Right.
For example, when I started the work, there were no artificial discs for your back, but now there are. Current state of medical science and AI on top of it, how can anybody tell you that this is the end of the story in terms of what you might get from treatment?
Hmm. Hmm.
Right.
It's clear. It's clear that there's always an answer, some sort of answer now.
Point is, it's not chronic, it's just persistent.
Hmm.
But things are persistent. I just read about, I don't know if you read this, the first heart replacement done by a robot.
Wow.
And because they used a robot, they didn't have to crack open the chest. Right.
Oh.
There's work being done right now where you could literally have the equivalent of a volume control on your pain
Hmm.
with a cybernetic implant, which would also alert you to pain you better pay attention to,
Wow.
but you can literally control the pain levels.
Wow.
Pain is not a uniform experience. I mean, if you're a soldier or a police officer or I'm a martial artist, I can handle pain in a way that most people couldn't.
Right.
Why is it? If I think differently about it, if I experience it differently, anybody who believes that pain is pain and it's going to be what it is and it has to be does not know the truth.
Right. Maybe that was something that could be said at one point in time, but considering where we are, like you mentioned, the advancements of technology and AI on top of that, yeah, like that's a thing of the past almost.
Well, I'm a big fan of science fiction, and it was what was in science fiction is now becoming reality.
Wow.
So the misconception is that it's chronic as opposed to persistent. The misconception is that you're going to have to learn to live with it as opposed to learn to live. Learn to live. You may not be able to live the way you were living, but you can still live and you can still be just as enriched. Stephen Hawking, I don't know how you do that. This man has a condition where he's in a wheelchair and he can't even talk in his 20s and
Mm,
becomes the world's greatest physicist. You and I love stories of inspiration. So I
sure.
like shows like America's Got Talent, these other shows, Ninja Warrior. These
Yep.
are people that overcome stuff where most people go, you can't overcome that, right? Well, you can. And it's not unique individuals, it's you. So the misconception that you're limited, that there's something that's going to happen you cannot master. All right. The
Right.
book says mastery of pain. It doesn't say managing it. It says
Right.
mastering it. It means you get to be back in charge. All right. How you approach this psychologically, existentially, and emotionally is critically important, except doctors are just focusing you on the body. What happened here, Audrey? Thousands of years of Eastern medicine and the Western medicine establishment goes, wow, it's not scientifically proven. Really?
Mm,
People don't know. And this is a true conviction I have. We don't need any of it. We
right.
have the innate ability to heal ourselves. We have the innate ability to do anything we want to do.
Okay.
ADHD, right? You think that that's fixed? Your ability to pay attention is not fixed by the structure of your brain when you're born. You can change it. My ability to pay attention after years on the martial arts in this work is
Hmm.
way beyond normal attention span.
Right.
You get this idea that anything about you as a human being is fixed. That's not true. Neuroplasticity, now we
Yeah.
figured out the brain changes. that in the therapy session over time, your brain actually will change in reaction to it. So you
Mm.
walk around with a misconception that you're limited and you're stuck.
Yep. You are who you are.
It's a profound misconception.
Mm. That's a big one. That's a big one because a
So,
lot of people do buy into that and accept that and go, well, that's the way I am, so I accept it and move on. And you don't have to. You don't
well,
have to.
this is why my patients within the first 2 or 3 months, they go, I don't know if I have any less pain, but I don't feel the same way about it. And for some reason, it's not impacting me as much as it used to. Seems
Mm.
mysterious, but I'm just opening the door and going, you think you're limited. For example, I'll tell patients to meditate on their pain. And they go like, what are you, crazy? It hurts badly enough as it is. And what do you think happens when they meditate on their pain? Literally meditate on the pain, get into it.
Mm.
What do you think actually happens?
I don't, you don't think it doesn't become as all consuming or overwhelming, right? Because you're
Oh
putting,
no, the opposite happens.
okay.
It goes down. I've done this thousands of times with
Right.
people.
So sorry, what I was saying is that it doesn't, it's not as painful because it becomes, that's what I was trying to say. It becomes a part of you almost because you're so a part of it.
That is true. But here's the bottom line. Your
Mhm.
brain is designed to go, pain, that's a problem. We should pay attention, right?
Yeah.
But people with pain don't want to pay attention. They want to get away from it, right?
Right.
When you start paying more attention to the pain, the brain goes, we're good, back it down, turn down the volume, right?
Right.
But that's just a small example of many things where I say, you think you know that the way you experience your pain is the only way you can. It's not true.
Right.
And so in this approach, there's a lot of practical examples of that. And people go, holy mackerel, right? Really? There's other ways? And I go, yeah. The heart of the existential immune system, the tools in it are something that we should talk about because that's the
Okay.
key to this.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah, I don't want to divert from where you
Yeah.
want to
No, no, no.
go.
I would, that's something you mentioned earlier and I was going to circle back there, but yeah, let's open that up now. Let's talk about these tools.
Yeah, because it's great to have these theories, but I'm the kind of guy who wants to make it work, operationalize it.
Mhm.
So this may seem like an overly simplified idea about humans, but consider this. Would you agree that all human experience is registered in thoughts and feelings,
Yes.
right? We have experience, we have thoughts about it, we have feelings, right? Because I'm exploring this going through the years and trying to figure out what this immune system is all about.
Right.
Well, that means thoughts and feelings must be in that system.
Hmm.
Okay. I started thinking as a system, as a tool, and emotions as a tool. First discovery, the most important of all of them is, did you know that emotions are not just an experience? They have a functional purpose. Everybody knows that about pain and hunger and thirst. It's
Right.
unpleasant, but it has a purpose.
Right.
Emotions, eh, they're just bothersome. Or maybe they're great if I'm happy, right? Guess what the two most important human emotions are?
Happiness, sadness.
Nope. Anxiety and anger.
Wow.
And you go like, well, that's interesting because anxiety is weakness and anger is bad, right? Ain't true. You will never, ever experience any form of anxiety unless your needs are being threatened. And why is that? Because as any good organism, we are designed to be warned when we have a problem. These
Built-in
lower
warning
systems
system.
like pain and hunger and thirst, those are good. But this one operates any threat to any need. And a lot of needs aren't purely physical, need for love, need for success. So this has been explored and turns out to be true. You think about it, right? You may not know why you're feeling anxious. You dig in and you will find out that needs are at risk.
Mm.
And a discrete list of needs. I go like, okay, so anxiety is a warning system. And that makes sense because I need to
Sure.
know what needs are being threatened, right? Because
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
designed to get all our needs met all the time.
Yep.
Okay. Anger. I go, well, I need an action system. If I've got a threat, it's like I need to call the cops or have the army come in or whatever. I need an action system to deal with the
Yes.
threat.
Right.
What's that? Well, it's not happiness. Because if I'm happy, I'm not feeling threatened.
No. No. No.
But it's not sadness because sadness is after the fact.
Right.
It's done, right? I go, anger,
Hmm.
single most important human emotion. But remember, emotions are a form of energy They're
Yes.
no different than the forces that create earthquakes or volcanoes or tsunamis, right? We harness the energy in nature and it does constructive things. You don't know
Yes.
how to use anxiety and anger, they're incredibly dangerous. There's no such thing as an anxiety disorder, right?
Right.
Anxiety is not pathological and anger isn't either.
Right.
Yelling, screaming, and hitting is not anger, that is mismanagement. Panic
Mm.
attacks are a mismanagement of anxiety. You learn how to use these tools in order to get
Yes.
to you start going like, okay, if I'm feeling anxious, I need to get into it. And then what do I find out? I find out I'm having thoughts that would make me feel anxious. And then those thoughts represent threats to needs.
Right.
This is the technique, by the way. There's an actual technique called the survival triad that teaches you how to actually do that. You
Hmm.
tell me you're feeling anxious about something unpleasantly. I'm going to go, okay, what triggered it? What
Yeah.
thoughts you have about it? Oh, okay, those thoughts actually make sense of how you're feeling. And what do those thoughts represent? Like if I think I'm going to lose my job,
Hmm.
understandably, that could make me anxious.
Sure.
But what need does that represent? That threat, that's a threat to your ability to provide for yourself.
Live. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm oversimplifying, but not only
No.
did we come up with this idea, anxiety and anger are incredibly important, that there's a technology for making use of that, harnessing that energy constructively.
Yes. Yes.
Thinking, people think thinking's so cool. It's not, right? There are certain aspects to thinking, and I'm very good at thinking. Analysis, synthesis, creativity, innovation. There's a lot of aspects to thinking,
Yes.
cognitive aspects. They're great. Judgmental thinking, assumptions, generalizations,
Yeah.
rationalizations, magical thinking, and today in this world, belief-based thinking,
Yeah.
none of them represent the truth.
Right.
Negative self-talk represents thinking not working properly
Mm.
because it's never going to be true. You tell yourself you're stupid when something goes wrong, you'll never prove that for two reasons. A, stupid means zero intelligence, which does not exist. And B, there are always reasons why things don't go the way you want them to.
Sure. Yeah.
So you begin to get the flavor of this. We get into challenging the whole thinking process as a system. Like you take your car to a mechanic and we go, okay, what's working, what's not working so well, right? Because if you don't represent the truth and the data and the facts of your existence, you're not going to be able to manage it nearly as optimally. If
Mm.
you don't use your emotions in the way they were designed to be used, I approach people, this idea of mental illness and mental wellness, I don't believe in any of it.
Okay.
That's an outcome of an operating system operating the way it was designed at an optimal level, right? We have operating systems and computers. What was that based on? That's based on us.
Right.
Growing up, you learn to develop an operating system to be safe and get your needs met, right? And that revolves around how you develop thinking and feeling.
Right.
Is it working properly? You optimize that and you become what people refer to as an empowered, enlightened individual.
Yes.
So enlightenment represents optimization,
Yeah.
optimization of your potential. And you and I both know there are many approaches and many spiritual, psychological, they're all great, right? But it's like martial arts, right? What's the best martial art? No such thing. They all work,
Right.
but I'm big on efficiency and effectiveness. I changed from a Japanese system that I'd been in for 45 years into a Chinese system because I found a system that was actually more efficient than what I'd learned for 45 years. I
Okay.
changed. I am a well-trained psychologist. I have all the fundamental backgrounds in training and experience in every form of it. But this came together like the Beatles, right? What did the Beatles do that nobody had done? The Beatles take everything about music that was great, they put
Hmm.
it together, and it comes out a little bit different and a
Okay.
little
Okay.
bit cooler, right? This is an extension of everything I've ever learned.
Mm.
I didn't reinvent the wheel, but I did design a wheel that operates more effectively and efficiently.
Right. 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 And
So
it's
my
because
point,
of,
you start
because
telling people you start telling people this, and they go, "Holy mackerel! What are you telling me about this kind of equipment?
right.
That $2 million car that I'm not a jalopy?"
Right.
And they're like, "Yeah, you are. You just don't know how to drive it."
Right. 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 Right.
Sorry
Well,
to
and
tell
I'm
you.
hearing you've taken your vast experiences And as you said, brought them together. And I think that sort of has given you a different perspective. And we all have our unique perspectives. And I certainly hearing from you that that's use all the different things you were part of. I think poetry was mixed in there as well, and the other things that you do, and you bring that together to help form just your understanding of how things can be done differently.
Yeah, even that picture you saw when the screen came on, I do cartooning.
Okay.
And the cartooning, you remember the old 40s Looney Tunes, Bugs
Yeah.
Bunny?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the form of art I love. I love those cartoons. Why? The cartoon universe. Think about this one. Why do I love the cartoon universe? And what does that got to do with this? Because in the cartoon universe, anything is possible.
I love it.
Science fiction, anything is possible. I don't know why I gravitated towards that as a kid, but I was into that by the time I was 4 or 5 years old.
Mm.
So, look, I know suffering is real. I know there's suffering that can just do you in. But if you understand what your potential is, it changes it. And
Yeah.
I don't know how many people I've talked off the cliff by just showing them this is not the end of the story. You get to choose, right?
Yeah.
Viktor Frankl, whose work was existential psychology,
Mm-hmm.
is one of my heroes because Viktor Frankl, do you know his story about when he was in the concentration camp?
Concentration. Yeah. Yeah.
You remember what his revelation was?
There's an end to it. Like it'll like
No, no, and that's a tough question because there's a lot he came up with. But the central thing that he came up was
yeah.
he's observing, he's going, we're all in this horrible situation,
Yep.
right? But he knows that some inmates are bitter and angry, some are terrified, some are depressed, some
Yep.
are actually treating other inmates better to help them.
Mm-hmm.
His revelation was really simple. He said the real challenge is being human is that we get to choose.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There is
Yeah.
no such thing as being helpless. We may not like our choices, but
Right.
we get to choose. We get to determine our thoughts, our actions, our intentions. They give us the power to do whatever we need to do or not. You put your intention on, I'm chronic pain, right? I'm going to live with this for the rest of my
Yes.
life. You're putting all of your life force and your energy into
It
that.
gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Yeah.
Hey, I'll acknowledge it, but I sure as hell am not putting my life energy to outcomes I don't want. And if it doesn't work out, not positive thinking, right? Not optimism. It's just going, I recognize the power of the energy of what I envision. I am not putting that into outcomes I don't want.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Give unnecessary attention to things that shouldn't to get receive it is what you're talking about. And I love that. But I just literally just with a conversation yesterday with someone, and we had that same conversation just about not putting your attention to things that don't serve you. Right. And so that's what I'm hearing for you loud and clear. Again, your upcoming book is called Mastering the Overwhelming. And you touched on that. If you sort of take the key takeaway that you want readers to leave with, what would that be?
Yeah, that's a tough question. Key the key takeaway I think is that respect your suffering. Nobody likes it. I don't like it, but respect that just as much as things that you like and love. Everything's teaches. Learn from what's going on. Recognize the value, and that when you're being challenged, you're also being given an opportunity. The opportunity to really discover what you are
Hmm.
and to make use of that. It's a gift. Being alive is a gift, no matter how difficult it may be. Recognize and understand that.
Awesome, awesome. Like I've sort of really sort of appreciated the insights around pain or chronic pain, if you will, but the existential immune system,
Yeah.
great power in that. And again, it's the idea of knowing that we have it already there, but just we're unaware it existed and what its potential.
Yeah. One final footnote, if you don't mind.
Sure.
This model works very well, but week to week therapy is not enough. It's
Okay.
like if you want to be a black belt and you go to the dojo once or twice a week, how long is it going to take you? There's a lot to be learned. This system's like an existential martial art.
Hmm.
So we're going to be launching in the summertime an educational program called the Mastery University,
Okay.
where you're going to get intensive training in these approaches that we're talking about, how to make use of that existential immune system. So you don't have to see me as a therapist. You can come to those online webinars and
Wow.
seminars. We have workbooks to go with the books. There's going to be a lot of materials available, a lot of education available. And then we want to create support groups There are not enough in the way of support groups. Absolutely not in chronic pain. Just like AA has a technology that helps people, right? But chronic pain support groups don't. They commiserate, but they don't have a technology. So just so people who may be paying attention to this know, there's going to be great opportunity to do this, and it won't matter where you are, and it will be very cheap because we just want large numbers of people to get involved.
Sure.
That you can learn a lot of this without ever seeing me. Or if you want to do a consultation, you can do it. But I love teaching, and classrooms are a great opportunity with these. So just so people know, this is not just something, well, he's a chronic pain specialist. No, I'm an optimization specialist.
Mm. Yeah.
Right? You don't have to see me personally to do that. You can learn 90% of what you need to know by attending educational forums and working with other people who are learning. Like you go to the dojo and you work with the other students.
Is this a future of medicine? Is that what we're looking at? What you describe?
I hope so, because I'm actually working with people now and trying to unify Eastern and Western medicine. And I have a number of groups that really want to incorporate this into their practice. You would think that doctors would have done that a long time ago, because I work with the best doctors in the state, and they send me patients and they love my work and they invite me to presentations. Do you know what they said when I asked them years ago, why don't you incorporate this into your practice?
Yeah.
What do you think the answer was?
Because it works.
No, they know it works, right? They loved it. I go, but there's a lot of elements to this that belong in your practice, not just me.
Yeah.
It's not just about being a mental health practitioner, right? This is about being helping people, period. The answer was, you're the specialist. We send them to you. Specialization is one of the worst things that's happened to medicine.
Wow.
So we're in the works of helping to convert that. I know that's grandiose. Whether that'll happen or not, I don't know. But the bottom line is, if what I'm telling you today is important, how many people need to hear what I'm talking about?
Right. Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? We did no promotion for that book, the first book. I just wanted to get it published. 7 years in the making. I just wanted to get it out there. We did no marketing, none of that stuff.
Right.
Right? It hasn't reached that many people. I've done a fair number of podcasts based on not getting a whole lot of feedback afterwards. I know the world we live in. But my point is, if what I'm telling you today is important,
Yep.
I just want people to hear it, whether it's the TED Talks or the Oprahs or the other people. And that is not my ego. I couldn't care less. What I do want is visibility, because I think this is what people need to know.
I love
Especially in the world we're living in and moving into.
Yep.
The time for people to find a way to be empowered.
This is it. I think empowerment underscores much of what we talked about here today, and being able to change the perception of pain. I even like your description about how our emotions, we kind of demonize them to say they're bad, they're bad, they're bad. But in fact, things like anger and anxiety are very helpful to us. And so I think you eloquently sort of explained that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for listeners that want to connect with you directly, Alan, or learn more about your work, where could we send them?
Just have them go to my website. It's A Weisser, Weisser, at newoptionsinc.com.
Love it. New options. That's amazing. I love that.
New options. Yeah. It's kind of cheesy, but it represented them. Right?
Yeah, and very true of the work that you're doing, and giving people those new options and new perspectives on how we can address an age-old, painful topic. So here we go.
Listen, I'm not the first person to figure this out. I think a lot of people, Martin Luther King's a great example. These are people who step back, Gandhi, Christ, take your pick. People who know this. I'm not the first.
Right.
I'm not the first person to come up with a system. Do you know Sadhguru? Have you ever paid attention to him?
No. The name sounds familiar by it.
Sadhguru is out there. You go on YouTube, he's all over the place. He's an Indian mystic.
Yeah.
Unlike a lot of, he's wonderful, but unlike a lot of mystics, he took yoga and he operationalized it. He calls it inner engineering.
Okay.
This man is responsible for soil reclamation in India and saving people's lives and incredible things. He's presented at major world forums. He's important. Here's a guy who took the same basic understanding and took it into a technology.
Yep.
And impactful. And unlike a lot of gurus, he doesn't just sit around and look mystical. He's funny, he's real, but he's also incredibly evolved.
Right. Right. And so recognition of the times we're at and respond accordingly. So we're not, we're not carrying a message on tablets anymore, right? We've advanced and moved that forward. And so that's what we're doing. We're talking about.
Yeah.
This is awesome. Thank again, Alan. This has been great, insightful work. Congratulations on your journey. And thanks again for being a guest on the Audacious Living podcast.
Well, and thank you for being patient and allowing me to just talk off the top of my head, because I will.
No, great stuff come out of that. So thank you.
Right.
Back we are here on the podcast, and what an incredible conversation from Dr. Alan Weisser. One of the biggest takeaways for me was the message that pain is not a permanent prison. It's a challenge that we can manage. His insight on emotions like anxiety and anger was also refreshing. Instead of seeing them as barriers, we can view them as guides, tools that help us better understand ourselves. That concept of existential immune system beautifully captures our human ability to adapt and thrive through adversity. What I really appreciated was his emphasis on self-awareness, and that by redefining the stories we tell ourselves, we can create real breakthroughs. And I also loved his practical strategies like meditating on pain, which gives us something to actionable we can apply right away. It's a reminder that we hold the power to shape our own reality. If you're inspired by Alan's message, I encourage you to connect with him directly. You can learn more about his work at newoptionsinc.com, where you'll find valuable insights as well as resources. As we wrap up today's episode, I want you to take a moment to reflect on the landscape of your life. It's going to be hills and valleys, but both have their purpose. Pain isn't a permanent condition. It's an experience that can be managed and even transformed. And remember, your emotions, they're not your enemies. They're your allies guiding you toward growth. So please, I encourage you to keep that in mind as you move forward. I want to thank you for being a part of this audacious journey. If today's episode resonated with you, please take a moment to like, follow, subscribe, or share the Audacious Living podcast so we can continue to inspire more people to live boldly and authentically. Until next time, keep pushing towards forward and embracing the beauty of your journey. Stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stevenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.